Gurley, lot of room. Inside the 20, he is gone. Touchdown, Rams.
Watch this offensive line. Sullivan, Blythe, Saffold. Look at the job that those three guys do interior-wise and the push that they have right there. And the lane then right through the middle. It's one-on-one on the safety, and good luck Xavier Woods trying to make a tackle.
Hello everyone and welcome to another video by RamsHouse.com. Etansko here hanging out with Ryan J. What's going on, man?
What's up, man? How's it going?
It's going good. I know we've been planning on doing this video for a long time, so it's excited to
Yes, sir.
Get it going. And today the subject matter is, of course, Mr. Todd Gurley, superstar running back of the LA Rams. And we're going to talk a little bit about all the craziness that's been going on this offseason and kind of go over answering the question that the whole universe is asking and what's going on with Todd.
Yeah, and specifically his knee, what could be or could not be going on. Is his career over? All of that stuff should be relatively covered in this particular video, so I think you guys are going to like it.
So I think it's a good place to start off, asking the question, what is going on with Todd Gurley's knee? And I think anyone who tells you anything besides "I don't know for sure" is a filthy whore liar.
Yeah, I think that's they're automatically starting with a kind of the typical logical fallacy. You're starting with a presupposition and you're trying to find evidence to support that presupposition. And in this case, they're trying to find any sort of evidence that could possibly lead to why there was a particular diminish in his performance late in the season throughout the playoffs, albeit with a positive blip against the Cowboys. But I think that's kind of what we're going to see here, what has been actually happening.
So one of the things that we're going to do today is we're going to kind of carry you guys along through the actual real story of how this all developed. And we're going to present to you all the evidence that's really out there about what is happening and allow you guys to make the decision for yourselves about what you think is going on with Todd's knee and what you think is going on with his health. And we'll kind of go through some of these things and really objectively look at the actual facts that we have before us, okay? So a lot of people out there, including some fairly big Rams sites and Rams reporters, would have you believe that Todd Gurley's career is essentially coming to an end, that his knee has degenerative arthritis and there is little to no cartilage left, and he'll essentially be out of the NFL or not being. He's already not the Todd we know and the Todd we've loved and the Todd we've had performing for us. And soon we'll find out that Todd will be out of the NFL. And what they want you to believe is that we suck again.
Yeah, I mean, we suck again. We're nothing. We're terrible without Todd. Todd is the linchpin that drives the entire offense, and he's terrible now because of this degenerative disease in his knee. But at the very, very worst, what people are doing is not stopping that sort of argument from continuing and pushing false narratives to. I would hate for it to just be clickbait, but that seems to be kind of what more and more prominent Rams sites and Rams reporters are doing.
And it's hard to not call it clickbait when it's not based in actual facts and evidence. I mean, it is essentially, and it didn't take long for us to do research about how some of these things actually came about. So let's start at step one, right? The first time that Todd showed any inkling of an injury was against the Chiefs. He seemed to have rolled his ankle or hurt himself going out of bounds, hurt his leg. And Sean McVay comes out, it's confirmed by Mal Simmons, says that Todd Gurley did have his ankle rolled up on early in the game, and it did limit him a little bit, but it wasn't an injury that actually took him out. He played in the following week against the Lions, right? And he had a huge game.
Yeah, I mean, talking about the Chiefs game, I think this is obviously this is a Monday night game. It's nationally televised, and when Todd Gurley isn't on the field, I wouldn't even say as much, because I believe he was still on taking 85% of the snaps that game.
Correct.
But because he wasn't, always on the field like everybody thinks that he is, because he's a bell cow running back, they constantly would check to the sidelines when he wasn't, and he's on the bike. So it kind of plants the seed for this narrative that, okay, yeah, he did get hurt in that game. As far as he got hurt, that's it. He just got hurt in the game.
He just tweaked his ankle. He tweaked his ankle a little bit. He did play 85% of snaps on the nose, and he only had 15 touches, which is low for him. But we were also in a pretty gnarly shootout in one of the most incredible, passing battles of NFL history. I mean, it was a wild game, and we can all agree on that. And it was one of the highest scoring games ever too. So it was just a really intense game, and games like that don't generally feature a ton of running. Now, sure, we could have used it more in the passing game, and we can kind of go into however that rolls out. But the end result was Todd played 85% of snaps. He didn't get very many touches. We won the game. So put the dots together however you like. So the next thing that happens is obviously Todd plays against Detroit the next game. Then he goes out and plays against Chicago, and then he goes out and plays against Philadelphia. And he plays the majority of the snaps in all of those games as well. And at that point, in the Detroit game is when we had Malcolm Brown go down with an injury. Right. There was, there's some debate whether Todd was already hurt because he struggled against the Bears. He had an okay game against the Eagles. So it's kind of like trying to figure out, what exactly is going on there. It's a lot to be. See, against the Eagles, he put up over 100 overall yards. He had 22 touches. I mean, so he did play a decent amount in that game. He had the vast majority. I think he had 90 or 86 or 84% of snaps. He had a lot of snaps. And then that's when we signed C.J. Anderson, and they decided to rest Todd for the last 2 games of the season. Now, what we've been told by team officials, by Sean McVay, by Les Snead, is that Todd was dealing with wear and tear. He was tired. He had been getting too many touches, and they decided it was best to rest him. Right? He was banged up like running backs get. That's the story that we got from them. And then what happens as soon as he sits out the final 2 games versus the Cardinals and 49ers? CJ goes off, and then we have a bye week that we go up against the Cowboys, and we all know how that went, right? We'll talk about that in a little bit. But let's see what happens now. We know what happens throughout the playoffs. And then this is kind of where the arthritis narrative started, right? There are some irresponsible outlets out there that are posting stuff during the Super Bowl run, saying, oh, the Rams organization and front office is lying to us. Todd Gurley is catastrophically injured. And I call that irresponsible because it's hugely irresponsible. There's no evidence to support that's true, except for the fact that you don't think Todd played enough against the Saints. That's it. That's the only thing you could possibly point to.
Yeah, I think what leads up to that is obviously the game against the Cardinals. We had just signed C.J. Anderson, and Todd is warming up in the pregame. It's a game time decision to rest him. Can
we just be honest about that, right? Like, let's just be real frank about that. There's no way we lose that game with or without Todd Gurley. If you can give your
100%.
Superstar running back a day off without risking your bye week or your position in the standings, let's do that. And then we played the 49ers the following week, who, again, let's be honest, we could probably have beaten them with our second stringers, right? So give Todd another day off. Let Todd rest up for the playoffs.
Yeah, I think that plays into exactly the game time decision. Do you feel like we need, and this is the question that coach has to ask himself is, do I need Todd Gurley to beat the Cardinals, to beat the Niners? No, I don't need Todd Gurley to beat both of those players, or both of those teams, I should say. And that's kind of what we saw. To kind of start that is already starting on a fallacy. It's honestly going to be the easiest answer is, or the simplest answer is probably going to be the best one. So we're already starting to that seed that was planted against the Chiefs is starting to sprout. Sprout its lies and deceptions here.
So we go through the season. We obviously go through the Super Bowl. We get to the offseason. And this is kind of where this begins. McVay's asked a question by a CBS reporter in a one-on-one interview. And he's asked, you guys can see it on the screen right now, he's asked about stem cell research, about stem cell injections. And he says, as far as the stem cells, that's not something that's been communicated to me, but there is a program. Now, part of the issue here is that some people who read this read it as, nothing's been communicated to me about stem cells, but there's a program. Instead of separating those things, it's like they're reading it and saying, oh, there's a stem cell program that's happening, but it hasn't been talked to about me. What McVay's actually saying is, I haven't heard anything about stem cells, but separately, we've got this program going on. We got doctors, and they have new methods of staying up to date as you can. And number one, the players feel good about it. Todd does such a good job of doing his own research and knowing what are the things he can do. And where we learned more about what that means is Todd and his trainer decided it would be best for him to lose some weight. And they came up with these new off-season plans to help reduce the wear and tear he got on the off-season and the exhaustion. Now, why is this important? And we're going to go over this a couple of times. Why is it important for Todd to reduce his wear and tear? Well, Todd has 150 more touches than any other player since he's entered the NFL. Running backs have a tendency to be run into the ground and to wear down. It's not necessarily even injury related. Their legs just can only handle so many carries, and we have overworked Todd. I don't think it's even arguable to say that, right? And if you want to throw in the fact that we've overworked Todd, especially considering he's had an ACL tear, go ahead. There's always going to be issues after an ACL tear. That's just a fact of life. Any major surgery on a joint that has to do with ligaments is going to have a more difficult time with wear and tear than a non-injured joint. That's just a fact of life, okay? So Todd's got crazy injuries. We have McVay being asked about the stem cell research, and he says, I don't know anything about stem cells. There's nothing about stem cells, but they're doing other things. There's other programs that are being done to help Todd get healthy, right? And to rest up and to recuperate from the offseason. So this is...
But I think what people are misinterpreting that is, as far as stem cells, there is a program.
Correct.
So they're not listening to exactly what he's saying.
The actual communicating part, which says that's not something that's been communicated. Trust me, if Todd Gurley was getting stem cells, McVay would know about it. I promise you that the head coach of the team would know if the star running back was getting a stem cell treatment.
Right. So this whole thing about stem cells is a misquote or a misinterpretation of it's not even a misquote. You shouldn't be able to extrapolate what we're about to see gets extrapolated.
Look at the top. It even says
exactly what he said.
It even says on the top. So the CBS didn't screw it up because they said at the top. It says at the NFL Combine on Thursday, it says Rams coach Sean McVay was asked about the possibility of a stem cell procedure during a one-on-one interview with CBS.com at the NFL Combine on Thursday and denied it. So they're clarifying. He denied a stem cell procedure, but he did say the team is looking at other new methods to help Todd Gurley with his ailing knee. Okay, first of all, he didn't say about the knee. He said nothing about the knee. So that's actually misleading. He just said that they're looking at other ways of... Look, it should be every team's prerogative who has a high-paid player on their team, a star player like Todd Gurley, to do absolutely everything they can to have him as healthy and rested and well-maintained as humanly possible. Because guess what? If they're not, they can't produce in the field. So here's the first thing. The stem cell question was asked. McVay said, I don't know anything about stem cells, but we're doing other things to make sure Todd's healthy. So, and this is literally what happened when I read this article and Ryan can attest it because we were on the phone when I did this. I read that article and I go, why would somebody be asking about stem cells? I went and searched it on Google, and the very thing that comes up when you do stem cell research for these is arthritis. It's to repair damage from arthritis. So some guy goes and Googles it, and even further than that, then all the video results are about stem cell treatments for arthritis. Everything about stem cell treatment in the knee is about arthritis, right? So some crackpot goes, somebody asked Todd about stem cells, misinterpreted that Sean essentially said that they're looking at things like that, Googles it and sees, oh, stem cells is for arthritis, and goes, oh, I've got a source saying that Todd has arthritis in his knee. It's just some random guy, some random reporter from Boston, from the freaking Patriots.
Yeah, it's a
he works for the
beat
Athletic.
reporter for the Athletic that covers Boston-based team, but mostly the Patriots. But you can see where we're going with this. This is the first, and this is one of the sources that all of the
arthritis talk has all come back to this one tweet. It's all been based on this.
So you can infer that this guy either has secret dark sources that's inside the team that only gives a Boston-based reporter inside information on Todd Gurley's knee,
and even though this comes out, the team still denies anything about arthritis, or doesn't confirm it, or however you want to say it.
Or this guy says, why would CBS ask about stem cells for his knee?
Google searches it.
Why would they ask about stem cells? And I know that his knee is messed up. He Googles exactly. Can you put that screenshot again of the Google search that shows it? He literally types in stem cell therapy for knees, and the first thing that pops up is arthritis. So, I have a source.
Not just the first thing, by the way. It's like literally all the results are about
everything.
They're all about arthritis in the knee.
It's ridiculous when you actually start piecing things together. It makes so much sense.
The beginning of all of this is from the stem cell question, and then the arthritis tweet, and then all hell broke loose.
Everything just catches on like wildfire. That our superstar running back now has some sort of he's got arthritis, and everything is coming to a close.
Then Todd Gurley's trainer comes out and makes a comment that everyone also took completely out of context and left out major parts of his quote in order to fit the narrative that Todd's got a degenerative knee issue that's going to ruin his career. This is Todd Gurley's trainer, Terrell Gaines, confirmed to CBS Sports that his client is dealing with an arthritic component to his knee. So, for those of you who are not aware, there's multiple different types of arthritis, but the basics of arthritis in and of itself is inflammation, swelling, and loss of range of motion in a joint. Now, there's more severe kinds of arthritis that actually has the body eating away at the cartilage in the joints, right?
Right.
So an arthritic component, which he actually goes on to clarify here, he says, everybody knew when Todd came out of Georgia that there would be some kind of arthritic component to his knee. Why is that? Why did everyone know that? He actually clarifies it, which is a part of every surgery, whether it's a shoulder, a knee, or an ankle. He's literally telling you.
Anytime a player gets surgery on a
joint, yeah, specifically a joint,
he is saying that you have an arthritic component. There will be an arthritic component.
Correct.
In any time any player gets any surgery on any joint, I want to highlight that.
This literally says every surgery. That's what he said.
Every surgery to every player. I can't stress that enough.
I've had surgeries on joints. I don't do. I don't play in the NFL, and I have issues with those joints from time to time.
Exactly. So I don't want to say that this is arthritis, But to say that arthritis is an I should say this. Arthritis is an arthritic component, but but arthritic component doesn't jump to it has to be arthritis, if that makes sense.
Correct.
So it's one of an arthritic component, but so is inflammation, so is swelling, so is soreness. All of that stuff
Which, by the way,
arthritic component.
If we're being totally transparent about it, every player in all of the major pro sports, maybe not baseball, it's a pretty light sport, but talking about basketball, football, probably hockey. Do you understand why they take ice baths after every game? Because they have swelling in their joints. Because they pound the hell out of them. They put a lot of wear and tear on those joints, whether they've had surgery or not, and they take ice baths to help reduce the swelling and inflammation.
And to kind of, wrap this quote up, I love the fact when people quote the trainer in saying that, but then completely disregard the next statement that he says.
Correct.
And it's when he was asked, well, hey, that kind of makes sense that the Rams were so eager to draft Darryl Henderson, and what do you think is going to be a sort of workload? I quote, "It's never been told to me that there's a plan to decrease his workload come week 1," which the whole argument of his workload is going to decrease.
Correct.
I can't think of a more reliable source than the dude's head trainer. His own trainer is saying, I don't see a reason why his workload would decrease. Week 1. We're not talking, later in the season where
real quick,
we got to kind of
go back real quick, because what we missed was him saying his later quote of the first paragraph there that he's talking. He says he's not the 5-year mark. All we're doing is managing that. If we can pound him less in the offseason while keeping his weight down, working on his strength, working on his agility in short areas, that's going to give him a better chance to be healthy weeks 14 through 17 when they really count. That's what he's talking about.
And I wonder what kind of plan Sean McVay was talking about. Correct.
When he talked about programs. He's talking about these things.
About programs. He's talking about this particular program. What did Todd Gurley do? I guess we could be jumping ahead, but it goes into the off-season programs. So it starts with the head trainer early on in the off-season, where he's kind of cutting weight down, working on strength and agility in short areas. And those are things that are going to be able to help him starting, especially later in the season, weeks 14 through 17.
Right. And it's like, guys, this makes sense. The Rams have, and they've talked about it ad nauseum in the offseason. Les Need, I'm sure even Kevin Demoff and Coach McVay have all talked about. Listen, we've invested a lot of money into Todd, and it's not only Todd. Andrew Whitworth, a lot of our veteran players that we have invested big contracts in have specialty offseason programs to ensure that they can be as healthy as possible for as long as possible. Because you know what? It's called business. You don't want to have the things that you're investing the majority of your money in not working. It's just straight business sense. So taking care of the things that are going to make you the most money and that are going to cost you the most money is what. And we live in an NFL where this has never been done before. So it's a little weird, right? It's a little odd that this is happening, but this is what Sean McVay is doing. People used to play their players to the preseason, and Sean goes, F that. Why are we doing that? It doesn't make any sense. And now we had Anthony Lynn a couple weeks ago saying, Sean had pretty good results not playing any of his guys in the preseason, so we're probably going to try that this year. Like, other coaches are catching on going, that makes sense.
Yeah, the trainer makes a really good point. Todd, this is directly from his quote. Todd typically sat out 2 to 3 series last year. I don't see anything changing with that. So I think people just get kind of caught in this cyclical cycle of, it does seem like pieces fit together, but they're being fit together with really, really strange correlations. Darryl Henderson helping the team and helping Todd Gurley last until his mid 30s, hopefully. He's not going to be the bell cow running back and Todd Gurley's out the door. This is helping the Rams offense so that Todd Gurley doesn't have to do it anymore.
So we just gave Todd. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, especially in passing downs, because Todd was the only one that was able to catch the freaking ball out of the backfield. Now Darryl Henderson is a Todd Gurley clone. I mean, you put on a Memphis tape and watch the guy catch the ball. He's Todd Gurley-esque. Right. He's not Todd Gurley. Obviously, he's not Todd Gurley, but at least he's 75% Todd Gurley. And that's honestly all Todd Gurley needs to not have to worry about doing the whole thing all by himself.
Okay, so I'll watch some highlights because it's beautiful while we're talking. But the main thing, that makes sense is how often in the NFL have we seen superstar running backs just fall off a cliff in the middle of a huge contract because they've got so many miles on them and they're worn down. McVay and Snead and his trainer and our training staff, and you know what? Our training staff, you got to give them credit. They've really thought outside of the NFL boxes on how to change the way training is done to keep players healthier longer. And the stuff that we've done
doing that, they've been doing
since day one
with Andrew Whitworth since day one.
Correct.
I mean, we've been doing it with John Sullivan, pretty much all the
veteran high paid players. Yeah,
veteran high paid players just get more time off. Sean
even went as far as to say that it's a specified program for each individual player based on what's going on with them. Every single person that is in that criteria has a specialized thing. So the reality is to make sure to do the absolute best we can to make sure that Todd doesn't fall off a cliff because of being run to the ground and all this stuff throughout the rest of his contract. Because what we really want and what you should want is you want Todd Gurley to retire a Hall of Fame Ram. You should want him to be a lifelong Ram monster for as long as possible. And that's what the Rams are trying to ensure, because Todd's awesome, not just as a football player, but as a human being. And he's the kind of guy you want to be a lifelong Ram. And represent this team, this organization in the Hall of Fame and beyond. And so, we want to keep Todd healthy as long as possible. Bringing in a running back. By the way, we're not drafting a first-round running back. We're drafting a third-round running back. Plenty of teams draft backups in the second, third round and beyond.
Yeah, I mean, you can't. I can't stand the extrapolation. You drafted a running back, so therefore. It's kind of like the stupid narrative that when we signed Blake Bortles, that we signed Blake Bortles, so Jared Goff is in trouble. That's ridiculous. He's brought in as an extremely cheap backup quarterback. In the same token, Darryl Henderson is an extremely cheap backup running back. That's really, really, really
third
good.
round is not an insane pick to be drafting a backup. Also, we just got a weapon. We got a guy. So the two things that everyone's pointing to, there's three things that everyone's pointing to that equal arthritic knee, right? Number one is his lack of touches in the Saints game and the Patriots game in the playoffs. So number two is the fact that he's got a different offseason program. And number three is that we drafted a running back in the third round. Okay, so it's just not unusual to draft a backup in the third round, especially not when, if the Rams here. I want you guys to think about this for a second. What happened to our offense when Cooper Kupp went down?
Oh, it's just...
We struggled. Let's be honest. We had problems. We had some real problems after Cooper Kupp went down. It took an element out of our offense that we struggled to identify how to replace. Okay, so we got a guy backing up Todd Gurley now who is a good backup, a really solid backup, but he's also a weapon. And if we have issues with Todd getting an actual real injury or Cooper Kupp getting an actual real injury, we still have weapons on our team now. Darryl Henderson can provide a different wrinkle that we can use in our offense in order to be able to upkeep the high-level performance that we have as an offensive juggernaut. And, if you ask me, for my money in the third round, there was no better offensive weapon than Darryl Henderson. There was no receiver we were going to draft that was going to play over our top 3 guys. There was no tight end we were going to draft then that was going to play over Everett and Higbee, right? So we're looking at and the great thing about a running back is that the NFL's moved to a more 2-back system than a bell cow back system. So Darryl first of all can get carries in spelling Todd Gurley. Number 2, they could both play on the field at the same time. If Cooper Kupp needs a breather, we could put Gurley or Henderson in the slot and put the other one in the backfield and play with 2 backs at a time. I mean, there's so many things that can be done with this.
Could you imagine Todd Gurley in the slot?
Yes, I can. It freaking, it makes me, eggplant emoji.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So we drafted the best available offensive weapon. That people are forgetting that if the Rams wanted to get it on, let's just say that was the goal, was to get another offensive weapon to ensure that if somebody gets hurt, we still have the firepower we need to execute our offense at the highest level. We accomplished that goal. It's not hard to explain away drafting Darrell Henderson III as being something besides Todd Gurley having a catastrophic injury. Then we're talking about, the lack of time in the playoffs. Now, the problem is he skipped the 2 games. Go ahead.
I just want to say, drafting Darrell Henderson is not mutually exclusive with it doesn't mean that Todd Gurley is hurt. It just could be, hey, we want another weapon.
Correct.
You know what I mean? It could be just that simple. Nobody... I'm not sure anybody can disagree with, yes, Todd Gurley's play diminished significantly over the course of the season, as do lots of other players, especially in skill running or running back positions, blocking positions,
Correct.
Which Todd Gurley is relied on quite heavily. It's not inconceivable to say, hey, his body just wore out and it kind of gave up on
even
him.
Beyond the touches, that he's 150 more, put up on the screen. He's 150 touches more than any other running back since he's entered the NFL,
and
guys.
That's
a lot of freaking touches.
That doesn't account for all the pass blocking that he's ever done. So not only is he touched the ball 150 more times, but that, again, does not account for all the times a freaking blitzing linebacker has come through. I don't know if you remember the shot of Clay Matthews when he was a Packer come running through and Todd Gurley bench presses the dude, throws him to the ground. It's those types of things that hurt the knees even significantly more, just because of the stress that you put onto it. So that doesn't even account for all of the story.
I'll tell you right now. So we know his rookie season he started late, but after that, in year 2, Gurley played 85% of the snaps. 85% of snaps in 20. Hold on, that's the wrong page here. Let's go to 2016. Todd Gurley's snap count was 74%. That was Jared Goff's first year.
That was
That was the crazy Jeff Fisher's.
That was the high school.
Path. Yes,
that was
high school offense. 2017, first year with Sean McVay, Gurley played 76% of the snaps. And then last year, Gurley played 75% of the snaps while missing the last 2 games. So you could make a pretty fair point that up to that point, he was probably playing 90% of the snaps, which is probably too much for any running back. I mean, that's beyond the touches. It's the snaps too. Like you're saying, it's all that stuff.
Again, it had a lot to do with the Malcolm Brown injury, but for the most part, it's because Todd Gurley's the best running back in the league. I mean, I have no problem saying that. He's the best running back in the league by far. Maybe not by far, but he's definitely the best back in the league, and you got to play the best back in the league as much as possible. But you're also, after Malcolm Brown goes down, you're not only you have to, but you're forced to.
Correct.
Because there's no other
until
option.
We got C.J. Anderson. Now,
correct.
We've covered how we've covered how we got here. How did we get to this whole crazy narrative of Todd Gurley having arthritis? We've covered that. We've shown you the exact path of what happened and how this rumor came about.
At least a logical path to from one thing to another. without having to go into conspiracy theories or people are lying to you or anything like that. These are logical steps, one thing to another, leading up to this particular position that we're in.
Correct. Then we covered a whole myriad of reasons as to why drafting Darryl Henderson was a phenomenal idea that had nothing to do with the Todd Gurley injury, right? Now we're going to be talking about this idea that Todd Gurley's knee suddenly just vanished and he got degenerative arthritis in a severe case and his cartilage just disappeared and it disintegrated out of his knee. Probably some alien did it with some kind of knee disintegration device or something, right? That makes sense. Yeah. But so and then he just magically just vanished. That's why he just sucked for the after the Philly game. He missed the next two games and then he was just garbage in the playoffs. There's a problem with that though, and that's the Cowboys game. He had a monster game versus the Cowboys. And this is NFL Next Gen Stats. Todd Gurley ran his fastest game of the entire season, an average speed of 12.08 miles per hour at the line of scrimmage on his rushes. That's his fastest game of the season. If you're in the middle of suffering a degenerative arthritis condition in your knee and your cartilage is vanishing and you're having massive injury issues, you do not run the fastest game of the entire year. He had 6 carries where he reached 15 plus miles per hour, which was, again, a season high.
I think what this shows is the evidence against, it's the clearest evidence that you have against a arthritis diagnosis. Because anything that you look at, arthritis is not an acute issue, meaning that it doesn't flare up. It's not like you get like I said, a flare up of your arthritis. My arthritis is acting up. No, it's a constant problem. It's a constant.
Some of the symptoms do flare up, but
correct. You're right.
But the notion that we're led to believe, first of all, if you do any research on arthritis doesn't suddenly, even with the worst arthritis, the one that really tears down your knee, that takes years. It doesn't just suddenly come in over the course of weeks and destroy your knee. It takes years and years and years to really fully take effect into someone's knee and cause some massive damage. So the idea that it happened in a matter of weeks in the season is ridiculous. And there's also this wrinkle where he was just phenomenal against the Cowboys. And if he was suffering a catastrophic version of arthritis that was tearing his knee to shreds and just taking all that cartilage away, he wouldn't be doing things like this in the middle of that quote unquote, injury riddled run.
He wouldn't have the best game of his season.
Athletically, the best game of the season. Yeah.
Athletically, yeah. That's no question. It's athletically the best game of the season because he's as fastest that he's ever been in the season at that particular point in time. You don't have that late in the season. But what I would suggest is the reason for that is because the guy sat for 3 weeks, let his body rest, and he was fresh.
Correct.
So it's even more evidence that it was a simple case of a guy just kind of wearing out. And I think that is where this whole thing is it's supposed to be. We can see him.
Some of these cuts, man. Some of these cuts, the speed.
And trust me, I was at this game, and I watched a lot of Cowboy fans cry every single time Todd Gurley touched this ball. So I just think that it's the clearest evidence that you have that it's not what everybody is saying it is, and it's just a more simple answer that the guy was just kind of tired. I wouldn't even say kind of tired because that's putting a real simplistic viewpoint of it, but it's just more evidence that shows that the body does get tired after a long season like that, and sometimes it just kind of wears down on you, and you can't push it as much as you would like to, and when you give it rest, you can see results like this.
Right, and I mean, man, it doesn't take a lot to see these runs and see that he's freaking looking fresh and good. And the narrative that is being given out by the team, which we don't really have any real reason to not believe, is that he was worn down. So like you're saying, he rests for 2 games. He looks fresh. Look at this run. Boom.
Yeah, I mean, you would have to believe that there's a conspiracy, that everybody's lying to you, that they don't nobody's truthful for no reason other than to completely just lie. I mean, there's literally no reason other than to just be liars.
There's nothing to gain, and all that would happen is that they would deteriorate any trust with the fan base when Todd comes out next season and is incapable of running the ball.
Yeah, I mean, and then what comes of that? I mean, you're still stuck to the contract. You still try to figure out ways to do it. I mean, there's no gain in lying to everybody. And again, none of the evidence shows that. The reason why we're even talking about this is some douchebag from Boston decided to open up his Twitter feed to the rest of the world saying some dumb crap. And that's kind of what pisses me off more. Not the fact that he's from Boston, but that's a lot of it. But it's from some guy making some stupid crap up. And I think he really knows it, but there's nothing he can do about it, and there's no reason why he would come out and say that he was lying. But the reason why we're here, some guy said something stupid. And it's really unfortunate.
Correct. And so this is where we stand. But again, I think the Cowboy game really destroys the narrative of the fact that Todd's knee was just getting tore up towards the end of the season.
And I'll even be fair. I mean, we definitely did not go over the Saints game after that, where Todd Gurley just seemed out of it, lost the entire game. He had one good run against the Saints, and like 2 or 3 good runs against the Patriots in the Super Bowl. One being a phantom hold against John Sullivan that gets called back, that could have put us in really, really good position to win that game. But he was not good in the 2 next games after that. My point is that those games can be in an oppositional argument, but you can't forget about the Cowboy game. And the Cowboy game is smack dab in the middle of bad performance, followed after extreme rest, which is the plainest example of when you give somebody rest and they're fresh, they can provide a much better performance, especially in any sort of athletic competition.
In a lot of the Rams' explanation has made sense with that line of thought that Todd was worn down. He had been getting overworked. He became worn down towards the end of the season. The reason they gave him rest, the reason they tried to get him rested up. But it takes more than 2 weeks to really recuperate from being truly worn down, and that's in that type of scenario. But the last thing we're going to leave you with is there's been a slew of people who are close to the team who've talked to Todd, who've talked to team officials about what's going on, and a lot of them have said the exact same thing, which is, look, Todd got worn down. He, of course, has wear and tear issues on that knee because he's had ACL surgery on it, and he's pounding it with repetitive motions, and obviously a ton of impact on that knee every time he runs the football or does impact drills or does any kind of training in the offseason that does impact on the knee. He's in a business where the knee is going to take a beating. And so they're all saying the same thing, which is the Rams and Todd and his trainer have come up with a solution to reduce the amount of wear and tear in the offseason and to help reduce some of Todd's total snaps in the season while not reducing his actual total touches. Now, we've had his trainer say that.
Please don't take our word for this. Please don't take our word for this. This is not just us saying this. You know what I mean?
Correct.
These are his head trainers coaches.
I mean, first of all, we just showed you the head trainer say that there's been no communication with him about reducing Todd's touches. Steve Weiss from NFL.com said the same thing. He talked to McVay, talked to Snead, he talked to a lot of officials at the Rams, and there was no plan to reduce Todd's touches. And then the last source we're going to do is we're going to play a video for you here with Maurice Jones-Drew, who's kind of giving you the latest on the situation, and he's going to explain from our perspective what is easily the most understandable and believable version of what's happening with Todd Gurley. And I'm going to play that for you right now.
Todd Gurley and his health. Perhaps some new news right now. Maurice Jones-Drew not only works for us here at NFL Media, you work for the Rams broadcasting their preseason games. You just talked to Todd Gurley a day or two ago.
Right.
What did you learn about his health and his status for this season?
Well, I think first and foremost, there's a lot of attention going about the knee and that issue. And yes, he was banged up throughout the season. He got hurt in week 1, played through the rest of the season.
Hurt in week 1. That's something we didn't really understand.
Well, it came out late in the year that he got banged up in week 1. He played through it, and it kind of just got worn down towards the end of the season. I think the plan that you see Todd on here, and here goes one of the runs that we looked at. That's a good shot. He took a good shot there.
This is week 1 against the Raiders, the Monday Night Football game.
Yeah, but I don't. And again, I'm not going to say this is the play that he got hurt on. We don't know what it is, but throughout the course of the season, players get banged up. That's what happens. What the Rams are doing now, and I think there's a lot of attention on what they're doing because it's really important what they're doing. They're customizing their plans for each player. So Todd has a plan to be ready throughout the course of the season. They want to make sure that they don't run Todd as much as they did last year and the year before, all the way to where he can't perform the last 2 games of the year. He has to take a rest to get him prepared for the playoffs. They want to make sure he's fresh year round. And I think that's important because Todd Gurley is an exceptional player.
One of the best, led the league in touchdowns the last 2 years.
And we don't want to have to go, even as great as C.J. Henderson was, they don't want to have to go and find a guy off the street to come on and play and then get running again. They don't want to do that. So the plan starts with drafting Darryl Henderson out of Memphis. You go and draft him. Okay, now Todd has a guy where last year Todd was on the field 80+% of the time. You don't want that. You want Todd to be able to come in and be explosive in spurts. Malcolm Brown got hurt. Todd had to take over, be the only guy. They only had 2 backs up that were active. Now you'll go to 3 to 4 backs that'll be active. From there, we're not going to run Todd in OTAs and have him getting tread on the tires in OTAs.
I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't put on a helmet until week 1.
Well, and expect that because I think Coach McVay's come out and said that. So this plan has been laid out between Todd, his personal trainer, and Coach McVay and the organization on what they're going to do, and they've all bought into it, and they're all working well doing it. And it's not only Todd that has his custom workout. Other players have it as well. So Sean McVay is doing something that's unprecedented in the NFL, doing custom workouts for each player so that you don't hear this is why this guy isn't here or that guy's there. They have plans and they're sticking to it.
Okay. When he's been at his best, he averages around 22 touches a game, carries and catches combined, 22 a game. Do we expect that for 16 games this year?
I think you can expect that. I think 22, but he might not be on the field for 80 snaps. He may be on the field for 60 or 50 snaps instead of having to be on the field for 16 games playing 80 snaps to 90 snaps a game. It's not going to happen anymore.
I mean, the guy has scored 40 touchdowns over the last 2 years, best in the National Football League. Thanks for the information, MJD.
All right, guys, so there you have it directly from probably the most reliable source in the situation, who's talked to Todd, who's talked to the Rams coaching staff. We've heard it from Todd. We've heard it from the coaching staff. We've heard it from literally everyone that has real inside information, not some dude from Boston who freaking worships at Tom Brady's altar. And they're all saying the same thing. Todd's tired. He's worn down. He's getting overworked. And they've come up with an offseason regiment and an overall new plan for Todd to keep him fresher longer.
And I think that's what it is. It's not exciting. It's not glamorous. It's not clickbait titles. It's not this over the moon type story. It's just his body got kind of tired. And unfortunately, with Malcolm Brown going down, it impacted the offense a little bit more than what even Sean McVay thought. And it impacted Todd a lot more than what he wanted to. And it's just what it is. There's nothing wrong with Todd. The Rams don't suck. We're easily Super Bowl contenders, if not favorites. There's nothing going on outside of the realms of what they want to tell us or what the truth is of what they're saying. Sure, they might be fabricating a few things for competitive advantage, but I don't think it's the levels of the things that is being broadcasted by some of these other Rams outlets, and that's really the most unfortunate part, because first and foremost, they're supposed to be educating and entertaining the Rams fan base, and not filling the Rams fan base with this sort of nonsense, baseless nonsense.
Bullcrap. Yeah, I mean, the reality is that there is no actual evidence whatsoever to support the theory that Todd Gurley has a degenerative knee issue, arthritis or otherwise. If you want to say circumstantial evidence dictates that based on the final 2 games of the season and drafting Darryl Henderson, well, dude, we could go over that. I could make up any story I want about any player in our team, that as long as we drafted a guy at his position in the last 2 seasons and he wasn't a superstar in the playoffs, oh well, Jared Goff wasn't spectacular in the Super Bowl, and then we signed Blake Bortles, so Jared Goff's on his way out. I mean, It's easy to use circumstantial evidence to make up anything you want. That's why when you want to stay objective and kind of have a higher level of integrity when it comes to reporting things like this, it's important to stick to facts and real hard evidence as to what is actually happening. And all the hard evidence points towards the most worked running back in the NFL getting overworked. I have no doubt in my mind that Todd has wear and tear on his knee. I have no doubt in my mind that Todd dealt with inflammation and swelling in that knee. I have no doubt in my mind that the knee probably was hurting him. Of course,
but to extrapolate that
surgery.
to extrapolate that to his career's over, should you draft him in the first round in fantasy? No, he's a 6th round running back. It's just utter nonsense.
I mean, the real narrative out there is that Todd Gurley's days as a premier back are over. Todd Gurley's future is in doubt. His future career is in doubt. His future with the Rams is in doubt because
of arthritis.
Because of arthritis or a very serious knee issue that is going to derail his career. And
I hope this video has kind of shown light on how that process evolved into this ugly beast that we're trying to subdue. And if you disagree with us, please shout us out, whatever you want to do. Let's have a healthy discord about what you think. I really love this topic because Todd Gurley's one of my favorite Rams, and I'd love to have a meaningful discussion on what you think and why you think that. But I hope this was educational.
Yeah, that was the main point. Was we wanted to offer. There was nobody offering an alternative educational presentation about what's going on with Todd, as opposed to the clickbait version of Todd's doom and gloom story. And the way I want to end it is by saying this. Ryan and I, either of us saying Todd Gurley doesn't have arthritis. No, absolutely not. We have no idea whether he's arthritis. And anyone who tells you otherwise is a liar. No one knows whether he has arthritis right now. But if you look at it objectively and you look at all the actual evidence that's out there and all the things that have been said from the people who are closest to the situation, it would be... it's not objective to get to the conclusion that he has arthritis.
Correct.
It's just not. You can't take an objective look and that be the end result of what you're looking at, because the evidence that we have at hand doesn't match up with that. So, guys, I hope you guys found this educational, enjoyed the video, and learned a little bit more about where, because I know a lot of people don't have the time to research these things the way that we do, and maybe you weren't aware of where the actual birthplace of this rumor started. And when you actually look at it at its core, the birthplace of the rumor is so unsubstantiated and so thin. It's unreal that this has blown up as big as it has with as little actual information as there is about this out there. And, I hope that we are able to clear up some of that stuff. And really, I think the linchpin for me is the end video by Maurice Jones-Drew, where he really gives you the lowdown about what's going on. Because what he says in his explanation of events makes complete and utter perfect sense. It really does. It's far and away the most believable version of events that I've heard. So I hope you guys got to take away some stuff from that. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you guys head over to Rams.com for your latest, greatest news. We have one more rookie video to put out, and then we're going to be doing a video on why Jared Goff is a beast. So be ready for that, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you guys next time.
All right, guys. Go Rams.